Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Tiara, aka Bookworm Babe, and today you might notice a little difference in my video. I am filming on a actual camera instead of my phone. So I'm really excited, I'm just excited to even do this video because I'm like, this is gonna look so nice, so HD, and I'm just excited. I'm excited to do this video as well because I've been trying to film this for 2 weeks now. It is my Indo Caribbean author book haul. So I had picked up a bunch of books and basically Amazon was kind of slow, so I didn't get some of them in time for when I originally wanted to do the video. So I had to put it on hold, and then I had to do other videos instead during that time. And now it's actually all worked out that we can film this video today. I'm just gonna hop into it and start showing you guys what I have. I'm going to start off with who I'll say is the most iconic author that I have here. And if you are familiar with not even just Indo-Caribbean literature really, but Caribbean literature, you have probably heard of him before. So that first author is V.S. Naipaul, and I have picked up 3 of his books for this haul. So the first one that I picked up is called Miguel Street. So this is what it looks like. I'm definitely showing this off on this camera just because you guys can see everything so much better now, and I'm really excited about that. But this is what the book looks like, and I had actually read a part of the book in the anthology Trinidad Noir. One of the stories in this book is included in that one, and that's called, I think it was called Man or something like that, but he is also a character in this, or this is where I should say that story comes from. So Miguel Street is a series of little short narratives that are told by a young boy, but he's unnamed, so we don't know his name or anything, but I think he's maybe around 12 years old. So he tells these narratives of different characters in his in his neighborhood, and they live on Miguel Street, or it's set, I should say, on Miguel Street, which is in Trinidad, in Port of Spain. So this takes place during World War II, and basically we are introduced to a whole bunch of characters, including Popo the carpenter, who neglects his livelihood to build the wild thing without a name, and to Man, who goes running for public office to staging his own crucifixion. So Man is the character that I read about in Trinidad Noir, and he is a very interesting character at that, I should say. So I'm looking forward to that. And the dreaded Bigfoot, the bully with glass tear ducts, as well as the lovely Miss Herrera, enthralled to her monstrous husband. Because I've had a little bit of a taste of this in Trinidad Noir, and I'm familiar with the narrative and one of the characters, I'm really excited to see where this goes. I like that it's set in a very specific time period, and I feel like that's gonna contribute to affecting the characters and the way people act, and just the way everybody in their neighborhood acts as well, and it should be very interesting. I'm excited. The next V.S. Naipaul book I have is called A Bend in the River, and this is what it looks like. It's an interesting cover. So this one is a bit of a different take than Miguel Street, which I'll put aside, but this one is more of, instead of just separate narratives, it's an actual, novel. So this book is about a man from Trinidad. He is of course of Indian heritage, and he is basically uprooted from Trinidad due to just the complications and hardships of living in the third world, or a third world country basically, and he comes to live in an isolated town in the newly independent African nation. So this is gonna be a story about this man's journey, obviously, to get to this town, his experience adapting and being in a new sort of culture and a new space and everything like that. And I feel like it's going to be interesting because there's probably going to be a lot of cultural commentary, because if he's going to be going to a place that is, of course, the majority is going to be Black people, and he's an Indian man, so there's probably going to be some sort of maybe tension, or if not tension, to be exchanged between the characters. There will likely be I would say sort of like a cultural awakening, you know what I mean? Characters exchanging knowledge between their two worlds and whatnot. And then of course just being in a new land, he's gonna face a whole nother set of hardships, because I doubt you can just pick up and go somewhere and just everything works out perfectly, right? So I'm very, very excited to read this one as well. I feel like it's just gonna have so many different like twists and turns, and probably a lot of different conflicts and stuff as well. And I mean, let's face it, those make for a good book, right? So this should be very, very good. The last V.S. Naipaul book that I picked up is called The Loss of El Dorado, and this is a colonial history, and it was also the winner of the Nobel Prize in literature. So this is a really, really good book just off that, I'm gonna say, and I'm probably gonna prioritize this one as like the first one I read from his set, just because I was very, very excited about this one and really, really interested in just the topic it deals with as well. So I feel like it's going to be a really good like page turner and really capture me. So of course this is also based in Trinidad. V.S. Naipaul is a Trinidadian writer, so a lot of his stories are going to be based in Trinidad, or if not, with a Trinidadian character. So this is, like I said, it deals with the history of Trinidad, and it says that it begins with delusion, the belief that somewhere nearby on the South American mainland lay El Dorado, the mythical kingdom of gold. If you guys haven't heard of El Dorado, look it up. It's a very interesting story. It's kind of like one of those Atlantis type stories, of those like lands of whatever and stuff like that. And actually there was a kids movie, if y'all remember it, The Road to El Dorado, which was a pretty good movie. It was a good movie from what I remember as a kid. I haven't seen it in so long, but it was a good movie. So yeah, that's sort of gonna be the basis from this. And then it says that in this book, he himself, a native Trinidadian, that is V.S. Naipaul, shows how the delusion drew a small island into the vortex of world events, making it the object of Spanish and English colonial designs and a mecca for treasure seekers, slave traders, and revolutionaries. So this is amid massacres and poisoning, plunder, and multinational intrigue, and there are two big themes, which is the grinding down of the Aboriginals during the long rivalries of the El Dorado quest, and 200 years later, the new horror of slavery. It's gonna deal with colonialism, it's gonna deal with slavery, very heavy topics, very prevalent topics in Caribbean history, and it also says that in this community there's a fear of slave suicide and poison, and of African sorcery and revolt. So this sounds hectic. I don't know, this sounds really hectic. I'm a huge like history, I don't know what to call it, like a history buff, like I don't know, a history lover, whatever, but I love history, and of course anything to do with the history of the Caribbean and my people. I'm Trinidadian and Guyanese, so I have two separate places to kind of trace history from, and even though there are similarities, a lot of it is still like truly very, very different. So anything to do with history is just like a soft spot for me, which is why I feel like I'm really going to enjoy this. And yeah, like I said, like this is gonna be first probably on my V.S. Naipaul binge, because it just sounds way too good. So the next book that I picked up is also going to be a bit of a tough one. So this is called Trauma, a collection of short stories, and it's written by Elizabeth Jaikaran. So this is, just as you can imagine, it's a collection of short stories from the Guyanese community of women, basically older women, younger women, LGBTQ women, and it tells stories of exactly that, of trauma that has been faced in the Guyanese community. In our community, we have definitely faced our fair share of trauma, whether it's the generational trauma of indenture, things that were born during indenture, alcoholism, domestic abuse. Those are really, really big things, and the stories in this book are essentially supposed to deal with the traumas that women faced back home in Guyana, as well as the traumas that followed even the younger people as they left that country and came to North America or were born in North America. So this is definitely going to be a tough one. If any of that is triggering, I would definitely say maybe be mindful if you've seen this and you're interested in picking it up, but if anything to do with different traumas might be triggering to you, it might be a bit of a tough read. I particularly am really interested in this because I think that trauma is something that we don't talk about enough, and there's so much different traumas and toxic practices that came out of the period of indenture and even afterwards that still plague the Indo Caribbean community today. And again, like, it's one of those things that we're often told not to talk about. So I think the fact that there is a book that is sharing all of these narratives and not keeping it such a like secret is a really good thing. And yeah, I think this will be a very enlightening as well as maybe hard to swallow book to read, but I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to the different narratives and the women's stories and points of views that will come out of it as well. The last book that I picked up, this one I'm also very excited for. I've been wanting to read this for a while, but I kind of like postponed buying it, but like I said, like, I finally have it, so I'm excited. This is called The Swinging Bridge, and this is what it looks like. It is written by Ramabai Espinet, and she is Trinidadian as well, and as far as I know, she lives in Toronto, which is where I'm from as well, so that's cool. And I have heard good things about this book. I've seen good reviews about it, and I had also researched her a bit, just given a project that I was working on prior to COVID-19, so I do know a little bit about her work, so that's what also made this a really exciting book to pick up. And basically, this is about Mona, who is a film researcher, and she is based in Montreal. So Mona carries a trauma with her, ironically, in relation to our last book, where back in her childhood, her father had gone on a rampage, a really drunken night, and he had threatened to kill Mona's younger brother, whose name is Kilo. So years later, when Kilo is now terminally ill, he asked Mona to revisit their home and, you know, their native island of Trinidad to reclaim the property that their family had left behind. So basically go back and get what belongs to them. And then as Mona returns to the Caribbean, she is faced with her family's past. The story goes into, it says 19th century India as well as British Trinidad, so obviously, like, you know, the colony days. And it tells about where her ancestors lived as indentured workers in the cane fields, and then finally the story will come back to North America, where Mona is currently living and where her story is taking place. So this is going to be probably another turbulent read as well. It sounds like it's going to deal with a lot of different heavy topics. With trauma, it's going to probably deal with the releasing of that trauma, exploring roots, which I think is super, super important for all of us to do, although it can be very, very difficult given our past and our history. It's not always easy to trace our roots, but I think that that's probably going to be a theme in here, or probably like a process in it, just through telling the stories of, you know, her ancestors and the process of the way maybe they came from India to Trinidad, and then eventually things worked up to where her family was left off. And yeah, that should be a really cool insight. So I'm very looking forward to this book. I'm looking forward to all of these books. Ultimately, that was the end of the haul. I had picked up 5 books. These are going to be great reads, and I'm really, really trying to chronicle as much Indo Caribbean literature as I can. Aside from the things that I read outside of, you know, this specific genre of literature, it's a really big goal of mine with this channel as well, just to shed light on Indo-Caribbean authors, Indo-Caribbean books, and kind of give us that sort of spotlight that I don't think we really ever had before. And I hope that it's going to be helpful, and I hope that it's going to open you guys up to some new books and new things that you can read. And maybe if you're not a big reader, it might even inspire you to pick up some of these, because the information that we can get from these books, even if they're just fictional stories, is a lot. It can still be really, really helpful. At least that's what I find. So I hope it will be helpful to you guys too. So that's all I have for today. Those were the 5 books in my Indo Caribbean author book haul. I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. I hope that it was helpful. I will definitely be doing reviews on these towards the end of the month once I am able to read them all, or maybe even towards maybe the middle of June, because I might need a little more time. But there will certainly be reviews on the way. Let me know in the comments if any of you guys have read these books before, and let me know what you've thought of them. Give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more, and I will see you guys next week. Bye!